Axis and Allies 1942, 2nd edition. Back with some updated strategy today. For those who might not know what Axis and Allies is a historical board game that takes place during World War II. This version is specifically 1942, during the height of the Axis powers. This is a team game, meaning you have your teammates, and the point of the game is to conquer victory cities around the map, such as Moscow or Leningrad, Calcutta, Berlin, London, places like that. Once you get a certain number of those, then you can win the game and declare victory for the Second World War, which is pretty cool. I'll be talking about some strategy concerning each of the powers today, and overall strategy between both sides. Later on in the video, I'll be talking about how, or specifically what things I do when I play a certain power, which are specifics in order to win the game or just to hold on or whatnot. I'm going to be going in a turn order as well, so first off we'll start with the Soviet Union. Soviet Union starts with 24 IPCs, meaning that's how much money they get per round to spend. There's a little spending chart down here that you can use to spend on certain units in the game, and they all do certain things. Soviet Union is a defensive nation. You want to really protect Moscow. You don't want to quite worry about everything else. But one thing I like to do is put a bubble around Moscow, as in I own all the territory surrounding Moscow. So that would be taking back West Russia, which is currently in the hands of Nazi Germany. And you want to really be focusing on defensive units. You don't want to necessarily focus on the Navy. Actually, don't focus on the Navy at all. Besides this one sub, that one sub can go help out somewhere else in the war. But you don't want to focus on Navy. You're really just trying to defend Moscow. Air units are okay if you want to do some counterattack, but it is better to buy more low power units like infantry to take up hits. You can abandon Leningrad early on in the game because you really want to protect Moscow. You're not very built up, while Germany is. You want Germany to take a long time. If they take a long time getting to Moscow, it's going to be better off for the Allied powers. Over on the right side of the map, or I should say the eastern side of the map, you don't have to worry about this too much. It's not your main focus in the game. You can leave those units there if you'd like. Try to make a stronghold here, by combining units or whatnot. If Japan goes up there, it's better off for other areas of the board, such as India, because they're not focusing on that area of the world as much. But again, you want to buy as much low cost, better reward units like infantry, as in the reward is more protection, more hits taking up, rather than buying the high power units like bombers, and especially naval units, not very good to buy. With Germany, you want to be very quick. You have 3 different enemies. You have the United States, United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union, and they're all on all your fronts. You've got United Kingdom down south. You've got on the eastern side with the East Soviet front. I guess that would be east for the Germany. And then you got western side with Britain again, as well as the United States. So you really have to focus on getting one of these powers out of the game, or mostly out of the game. So that's either going for Moscow or London. If you're going for Moscow, you really want to be focusing all your units toward it. You don't have to necessarily attack in the first round. Most common move is they take West Russia in the first round, which is okay. You can still get them in the later rounds. But you don't want to be focusing on London, Moscow, Africa, and the United States all at once, because you're going to lose the game. Once you commit to one of them, you don't want to swap and change. Just like how Germany in World War II was going for London all at once, and then they decided to go more for the Soviet front, and then they lost. It's historically accurate if you do the same thing in this game. You want to be going for either Moscow or London. So really getting your units up. You have tons of units at the beginning of the game. They're just spread everywhere. So you want to get them to one of the fronts. You can either shift them this way or shift them that way. If you want to go for London, you can try to build up a navy. It might take you a couple rounds. Maybe round 3 could be the earliest to where you could actually make landfall onto London to try to attack it. You could try to damage their economy by going for Africa, which has quite a bit of IPCs. Tank blitzing is very useful for doing that. There's not many units in Africa. As well as the Middle East, you can try to go for that. Still with London, you want to get rid of their navy. First round, you don't want that to be any cause of problem. I recommend getting these 2 first, so that way you don't have to necessarily protect your coastline in the first couple of rounds. United States may or may not decide to come and attack. They might devote all their efforts on Japan, or they might devote all their efforts on Germany. But they really have to split up their income, which is good, so they're not coming at Germany all at once. So those are kind of the basics over it. You're more of a offensive rather than a defensive nation. So United Kingdom, you want to try to focus. You've got 2 main focus areas. You have London and you have Calcutta. You want to protect both of these in order to prevent the Axis powers from taking them. This is more defense down here, while this is a offense-defense area. Defense as in you want to protect from Japan coming in. And offense as in you want to try to get onto the mainland of Europe and attack them that way. And defensive as in they're going to try to attack you back. Maybe I'll start down here with things you could do. You want to prevent any transports from getting down here, really. So you've got a transport here you can take out first round. And really prevent them from coming down. You're trying to defend this. Australia is not that important to defend. It's only worth, well, New Zealand too. Combined in total, it's only worth 3 IPCs. It's better to try to conquer things over here like French Thailand, or places like that. Or even these money islands, which are way better to try to defend. You don't want to try to defend Australia. You want to really defend Calcutta because that's how you win the game. If you lose Calcutta and a couple other victory cities, you could lose as the Allied powers. United Kingdom, once you lose your navy, it's kind of hard to build one back up unless Germany doesn't focus on it. The United States can come in and help them out at times. They can have transports come in and help bridge units across the English Canal to get into Europe with all of that. Likewise, as Germany, Japan wants to be quick and fast. They want to either focus on Honolulu, which is able to take over. That's not as easy to hold, though. It depends how fast you are going with Germany. Or go for Calcutta, because Calcutta could build up 15 rounds later, or not 15, 5 rounds later, they can have 15 infantry, which could be a real beatdown to take care of. Transports are essential in getting around, but protecting those transports are also essential. China, you want to take out China. China's not that big in the game. And start taking up Asia a bunch to get to Calcutta. Take that over as soon as possible. The United States is going to be focusing, so you want to build up your navy as they build up theirs. Because once you lose your navy to the United States, it's just kind of hard to stay active in the game. And you have to wait on your allied buddy over here, Germany, to kind of take over other places or other victory cities. So Japan, you don't want to necessarily focus up here unless it's pretty open. You want to try to focus your efforts all in one spot. If you focus everywhere around, you're not going to be able to win the game because you won't have enough units to take over everywhere. United States, you really have to split your income between the 2 sides of the game. You have to split it between Germany and Japan. Usually I find that more income gets spent on Japan because you have to take care of their navy, and your navies are circling about trying to take each other out. But you don't want to neglect this side of the map as well, because if you do, then Germany only has 2 powers to take care of instead of 3. So that's basically the overall strategy. They're an offensive nation as well. And In terms of things I do specifically with each nation, I'll just kind of go over that real quick, starting with Russia again. I usually only buy infantry, or maybe a couple of artillery to do some counterattacks. But I don't quite... I don't try to keep everything on my front line. I usually abandon Leningrad. I can capture it later, no biggie. Just you want to protect Moscow from getting taken over. You want to create a bubble strat around it to prevent them from coming up. If Germany's smart and they are coming up and they're building up tons of units and are just focusing everything, it's going to be kind of hard to hold on to Moscow. Later in the game, your allied powers can help and try to protect Moscow with all of that. Germany, I usually only go for Moscow, but if you can change it up, you can change it up to London. Germany, I usually don't attack anything on the first round unless they leave Leningrad unguarded, and I just move my guys in from Finland. But I do like to move every single unit I have in the first round, at least on this front. Move them up to either Ukraine to go through the Caucasus to get to Russia in the third round, or more direct route through West Russia. You don't want to necessarily hit all their guys at once. You want to try to get around their guys to take Moscow. Usually they pile up all their guys on Moscow anyhow, and you just have to take them out as much as you can. Take out this German Navy. Oh, I misspoke. Take your German Navy to take out the United Kingdom's Navy. First round, and you want to maintain that throughout the game so that they don't have a chance to get to the mainland. Because if they don't have a navy, or if the United States also doesn't have a navy to get to, say, Paris, you don't need to protect it at all, and you can move your guys off of Paris, put them on Germany. You don't need to protect anything against your back lines, just prevent blitzing and whatnot by putting maybe one guy in Belarus and have everything else piled up in Ukraine, which is pretty awesome when they go to battle with the Caucasus and then with Russia. Now, if you're going for a London strategy, you can kind of focus your efforts on getting rid of their economy if they're really trying to build up and only go defense, or you can try it takes a couple rounds to build up a navy strong enough with enough transports to come around. But what I find is if I have a Mediterranean Navy, they can help out, come up here. These guys can come. You can do some offshore bombardments. If you're going for London as well, do some strategic bombing raids to prevent them from even building units. And that would help out with capturing London. But you really don't want to focus on both fronts at once. You want to focus 95% of what you're doing on one of the two powers. United States, usually I find they focus more on the Pacific side of things instead of the Atlantic or the Europe side. So you don't have to worry about them as much, but just try to prevent them from getting to the mainland. If they do take North Africa, it's not that big of a deal. It's only 3 IPCs. You could be getting way more if you go for either one of these two nations. With the United Kingdom, I find it's useful to build up a navy all at once, meaning you save your IPCs, you don't spend them all, unless you're spending them to defend India. And then you can build up a navy all at once, so that way they don't destroy it immediately because it's weak, and it's a little stronger that way. Aircraft carrier, take your fighters on, you've got an even stronger navy. And I also find it useful if the United States helps out and just brings transports over while my navy is just there to protect, so I can come and attack. Over here, you want to protect Calcutta at all costs. I'm going to jump to China real quick. China is not that important to hold on to. With the United States, you can help protect Calcutta while they build up as well. If that plane's still alive, fly it over to Calcutta to help protect it. Or even you can take these guys, move them into Russia to help protect Russia, because those are your two main focuses. You don't need to focus on holding those IPCs. It's really the 4 that are in contention. Otherwise, you have 38 IPCs per round you can spend, and that's a pretty stable economy for you. So protect Calcutta, protect Moscow. I like to build infantry up, maybe even another AA gun. AA guns seem to be useful, just because they don't have many transports coming down. I like to take those transports out that they have. Once they combine their transports, it's harder harder to take them out. So first round, I like to take that out. Not necessarily go for any of these other units, even though it's a battleship that can be taken out by the United States later on in the game, and that's okay. But really protect those victory cities so you're not going to be losing early on in the game. Later in the game, you can actually kind of time your victory. If you get enough victory cities, it's hard to hold on to victory cities like Paris or Rome because Germany has a factory right next door that can come and easily take you out. Luckily, United States player goes last, so if they take out Paris and Rome, and they get Shanghai and Manila, and they've lost Leningrad for say, then they can win the game that way with 10 victory cities. So you really have to time your victory with the Allied players, and that's why it's key to hold on to victory cities you have. Besides, Leningrad is the only one I'd say that you can kind of forgo and protecting first off. You can capture later. Japan again. I like to try to match up my navy, because once you lose your navy to the United States, you can't do too much. You start losing all your land, and then it's just a defensive game waiting for the inevitable destruction that is coming. Don't focus on Australia too much. I like to get rid of the navy that they do have, get transports, bring them on down to Calcutta, either rounds 2 or round 3 to capture that, just because you've got a couple different enemies that you have to take care of. You have the United States and China, you have the United States over here, and generally you've got United Kingdom in the southern part of Asia. So you really want to get rid of areas that are going to cause you trouble and get rid of those enemies in order to win the game. I find it a lot easier to win the game with the Axis powers than the Allied powers at first, but if it continues on, the economies of the Allies are a lot better. So with the United States, I feel like I focus more on Japan itself during the beginning of the game, and then actually come in later on in the game with the side of the United States and the Europe side, and just try to help out. You really have to time your victory again by jumping on Paris and Italy in the same round, whether it be United Kingdom takes Paris, you take Italy. You've got Manila with your other fleet coming in. And maybe even Russia tries to take Leningrad, and that way you can get those 10 victory cities by the end of the round. If you feel like it's going to be a long game, maybe not jump on all the victory cities at once. You want to try to build up enough to go to it. Really, you want the game to last longer rather than quick. That way your economy can be better. Hopefully this was better strategies for you. Hopefully you thought of new strategies as I was showing this to you today. Feel free to share your strategies as well. It would be nice to hear them. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you all have a wonderful day.